Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here and to introduce new Orso to you. This photograph I took in summer, and it looks towards the Kluchevskaya gold mine, which is owned by Sun Gold and which is a subject of major transaction in Russia between Sun Gold and China National Gold Corporation. Our license starts just basically at the horizon line, 300 meters from the pit. And the pit itself is not in production since 2002, and it was in operation since the 1930s, produced about sub 2 million ounces gold and about 4 million ounces in reserve. That's a cautionary note, as usual. Highlights. Essentially, what happens that we agreed to join this project in September 2016, about 14 months ago. And since November 2016, we conducted baseline study on the environmental side, and also we have a baseline study of what was done geologically before us. There is no any resource attached to this project at the moment. All estimates are basically in P category, in Russian style P categories. They range from about 2 to 4 million ounces at about 2 to 3 grams. And we do not have any 43101 resource at the moment. After initial trenching during winter time, and I must say that although it's cold, but there is no snow, and last year we were lucky there was no snow at all. This year we have about 5 centimeters, so we were able to work through winter. And in May, after initial work, we agreed to acquire 30%. And then basically committed 1.5 million exploration budget, which covered geophysics, trenching, and drilling. And 11th of October, that's basically was the end of our presence in Central Asia. We sold our last project in Kazakhstan for $6 million. So we have about $6.5 million in the bank, so not bad for a junior company. And 6th of November, using that money, we increased our ownership in the project in Siberia up to 90%. So also as part of this process of refurbishing, we basically rolled back the shares 10 to 1. We have about 39 million shares in issue, quite significant free float. We own 90% in the project. Board of directors. The chairman of the company is Dr. Sergei Kuzhin, whom you probably know from Oriel Resources, from his involvement in Kupol, and also some petroleum plays in Kazakhstan. The managing director of the company is Mr. Sergei Stefanovich, who is present in this room. You can talk to him later if you want. Myself, I'm director of exploration, and we basically outsourced all our administration to Canada, and we are listed now on TSXV only. As part of our board, we also have non-executive directors who are Mark Cora, ex-BIMA, and he is a director of several Canadian junior companies at the moment. David Rhodes, whom you probably well know, is UK based, and Vladimir Pakhomov is a Russian non-executive director. Location of the project, it's in Siberia. It's in near eastern triple junction of Russia, China, and Mongolian borders. From the city of Chita, which is a capital center of about 250,000 people living in it, it's about 550 kilometers east, but not like any other project in Russia. Infrastructurally, it is very well located. We are just 35 kilometers from the Trans-Siberian Railway. We are just 10 kilometers from the major paved road going across from Siberia to the Russian Far East. All communication goes via mobile phones. We do not use any satellite. We basically use internet on site. I receive information from what's happening on site basically every morning, and we use Skype communication as our normal way of communication. That's the license area. It is in red. These names, they show names of individual prospects within the 7.6 square kilometer license. East of it, there are licenses controlled by Sun Gold. West, there are licenses controlled by Zapadная Gold Mining Company. The pit you can see just to the right of our license. It's not in operation at the moment, as I said. And about 10 kilometers west, Zapadная Gold Mining Company is mining gold from Alexandrovsk gold mine with production of about 1.2, 1.5 tons per annum as a hard rock operation. So we are very well located. It's a mining belt. There is also a town with about 1,000 people living in it. And it was established back about 100 years ago. History. All work which was done on this license is dating back to the 1950s, 1960s. In fact, we are using some journals and logs which were done back in 1952, 1963, 64. Nothing was done since then, and in some cases the trees grew up inside the drill holes. So it's essentially an area which is brown fields, but nothing was done for about 50 years in it. As I mentioned, it's about 2 to 4 million ounces. Russian estimates in P category for all these prospects combined, which I showed before. And the history of it, that our partners, they acquired the license back in 2013 via an auction, and the license is valid for 25 years. Interestingly, that there is no minimum expenditure requirement, how much money we have to spend, but you can see that by certain dates we have to deliver Russian-style resources to keep the license valid. Also, there are certain terms like construction must start 31st of December 2024, nice day, and production to start 1 year later. So we have plenty of time to complete exploration. In terms of what's known, in this case the license is shown in green, and over here this is basically Klitschevskaya gold open pit with gold mineralization shown in yellow extending right into our license, and this is where we're exploring. Essentially, it's basically a western continuation of the same deposit, but divided by the license boundaries. In addition to that, there are several other places which we didn't touch yet, to the north, to the west, and geologically it's Proterozoic metamorphic rocks, and in red it's a Permian granite then intruded by several intrusive phases, and mineralization is sitting basically around this big pluton, which is an eroded volcano when dinosaurs were alive. Again, you can see part of the open pit. That's the license boundary. This is where we focused our work, which is very natural to trace what's known within the pit. I don't expect you to read all these numbers, but what we completed today is that the entire territory is covered by magnetic survey, by a quite deep penetration of pole-dipole IP survey down to 500 meters. The reason for such a great depth because it's a Klutchy pit, the proven, drill-proven extent, vertical extent of mineralization is 600 meters, so quite a big resource attached to that due to these great depths. To date, we completed 3,700 meters of trenching and only 1,700 meters of drilling. Drilling is ongoing as we speak. We announced all these trenching results and drilling results during previous week, and there will be a press release today. I don't expect you to read all these numbers. You will see them in the press release if you're interested in. Mostly the grade varies from something between 0.5 and 4 grams. I would say the average would be 1.5 to 2 grams. There are some highlights. Just 40 meters from the license boundary, we had a spectacular intercept of 8 meters, about 49 grams of gold, with individual samples returning 565 grams of gold. Gold is free in this case. We analyzed this at the Natural History Museum in London. Otherwise, we study metallurgy. We submitted a couple of samples for cyanidation. We didn't do any work with metallurgy on the primary sulfides at the moment. And this shows our current interpretation of how mineralization extends. You can see it in the pit. Again, this is a license boundary. We have two major areas, zone 23 and 85 over here. It's about 1 kilometer long system. In this case, in Soviet estimates, all mineralization was shown trending northwest. In our case, it turned to almost 90 degrees. Instead of 3 ore bodies, we now have about 18. And we didn't touch this central area, but we focused here and this area called Kozia. The color code for this would be yellow between 0.5 and 1 gram. Purple is above 2 grams, and pink color is between 1 and 2 grams. So it's quite diverse mineralization, closely spaced. I wouldn't call them all bodies here, but that's an example of geophysics penetrating down to the depths of 500 meters at zone 23. The purpose of this is to show that that was a Soviet drilling. About 7,000 meters of Soviet drilling was done historically, but we didn't know how reliable it is. Our first hole actually showed better results than the Soviet one. They had about 1 gram intercepts. We have +2. So we are going to expand this and quite substantial intercepts. So if to focus on high grade, it will be about 14 meters or so. If to include everything, it will be 60 meters thick intercepts at about +1 gram. At 85, which is basically the same zone in the east, we have multiple intercepts. I don't expect you to read all this, but I would say that oxide is about 30 meters thick, and in oxide we have intercepts of about 15 meters at 2.4 grams. We have a loss of core in some areas, so we don't know exactly what the grade in it is going to be, but some materials running 5 to 10 grams in oxide. And previously I spoke about this area. Now this is a northern target we call Kozia and Ключи West, which is over here. Again, multiple intercepts. Basically we trenched it every 80 to 100 meters. And we have a high-grade portion over here, which we are drilling at the moment. The first hole, which was drilled into it, actually the Soviet section shows that it's deep in north. In our case, after drilling, we realized it's deep in south. And some geologically challenging problems to solve, but now we are fine. And with new drilling, we confirm how mineralization extends. Again, in this case, at Ключи West, in 2 holes which we drilled over here to test this low resistivity anomaly, which goes down to the depths of 500 meters. We have this kind of intercepts. As you can see, obviously, the remaining part of this anomaly is promising to be as productive as this part. And if it proves to be the case, then basically this is going to be probably a major discovery in this area, in brownfields area. And similarly over here, basically we now confirmed mineralization down to depths of 200 to 250 meters. And geophysics is of significant help to us. So what we are dealing with is, that's more for geologists, obviously. If to take this cartoon of strike-slip controlled mineralization with multiple zones, our license boundary sits over here. The Ключи pit would be an equivalent of this mineralized zones, and what we are dealing with is continuation here, but that's just a cartoon. And what it's going to be in reality, time will tell. By the end of December, we will complete additional 1,700 meters of drilling, and we will decide whether we can we are in a position to build resource or not. Basically, results and goals. I would say that the first results from trenching and drilling are very encouraging, and that's a large intrusion hosted gold system with extent of 1 kilometer and potentially plus if to add what we didn't explore yet. More drilling, as I said, and we expect to receive the first metallurgy test results in the end of December from oxide. And the target is 2 to 3 million ounces within the existing prospects at about 1.5 to 2 grams gold. And we will do modeling in Q1 2018. Thank you very much.